All right, if you've got an A3 scanner at home, obviously you've no problem. You just scan your drawing at A3, save it as a PDF or a JPEG. If you've got an A4 scanner, it's a little bit more complicated. You have to scan your drawing in two parts, and then once you get into Photoshop, I'll show you how to match those two pieces together relatively well in a couple of minutes time. Now, if you don't have access to either one type of scanner or another, there is another way. If you've got an Android or an iPhone, you should be able to scan using your phone. The process is very similar to taking a photograph. Now, I don't have an Android phone here that I can show how to do it, but there are loads of links on YouTube that'll show you how to do it. What I've got is an iPhone, and I'm just going to show you how it's done on an iPhone. So the iPhone, you go to click on Notes, and then set up a folder. You can do that by just clicking New Folder. I have a folder set up already called Scan, and then I'm going to go down to the icon in the bottom right, just click on that, and then I'll choose the camera, and then I'm going to choose Scan Document. Now, the document I'm going to scan is a drawing that I did last year, which is circular in shape, so it's a little bit more tricky than just trying to match up a rectangle. So I set this as a test for myself and scanned the document, sent it to my computer, and it shows up as two PDF files on my computer. Now, obviously, if you're scanning from your phone, you can scan the whole thing from your phone, but if you've got access to an A4 scanner, you're going to get a better job. So I'm going to presume that we're working with an A4 scanner and that we have to match the two halves of an A4 scanned image. Obviously we're not doing that, but let's just presume it for the sake of the exercise. Okay, now I'm going to open up Photoshop PS2. So I don't want to register, and I close this box and I open a brand new file. So I go up to File, Open, and I'm going to make an A3 sheet. So Open, dialog box comes up. I'm going to call this Test, and in the drop down below it, I'm going to go from the A4, that is the default, and choose A3 instead. Now, it's not going to look great, but at least it'll show you how it works. So if I choose A3, it means that when it opens up the document, it's going to be an A3 size document. It's in portrait. So I'm just going to move it over to one side, and I'm going to go up to Image, come down to rotate that image, rotate image, and rotate it through 90 degrees, and I'll get a landscape. Okay, now the next part is crucial. This is vital. Photoshop CS2 appears to work by default in black and white or grayscale. So go up to Image, choose Mode, and instead of working in grayscale, go down to RGB. That way we'll be working in color. That's very, very important, otherwise you're going to get very confused. So now I've got an A3 sheet and I want something to put onto it. So I'm going to go to File, choose Open, and I'm just simply going to open the two PDFs that I generated earlier of that circular drawing. So here's one of them, and here's the other. Open them, and now I've got I'll have three files open within Photoshop. So I've got this guy, the other half, and the A3 sheet. Now I just want to bring the two halves of the drawing onto the A3 sheet. I want them to appear on the A3 sheet. So I go to the selection tool there, the arrow selection tool, and I'm just going to drag and drop it from its own file into the A3 sheet. And when I do that, you will see that on the right hand side I've created a layer. So I have the background A3 sheet at the bottom, which is the bottom layer, and the drawing above it. I'm going to go over to the left hand side of the drawing now, that PDF. I'm going to drag and drop it onto my A3. I'll close them down, get them out of the way because I don't need them anymore. So now I've got the two halves of my drawing on my A3 sheet. Now the A3 sheet is the actual size, and you'll see I've got two layers appearing. With Photoshop, always remember that the layer that you have active, the one that's blue, is the one that the changes are going to be made to. So if you get confused and you don't know what the hell's going on, it probably means that you've chosen the wrong layer. Always make sure you have the layer you want. But this is an important part. Just remember to go up to this menu bar up here and click on the two boxes that I click here. By default, they're unclicked. You click on them and they'll just make it much easier for you to select things in a more intuitive way and manipulate them. So, okay, so now I've got my two items on my A3 sheet and I want to match them. So I'm going to just enlarge the screen. I'm going to zoom in by holding down Alt and holding down the wheel on my mouse and rolling it forward. So I'm moving in. And I'm going to match these two. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the left layer. And I'm going to go, this is just a little trick to make it easier for me to match them. I'm going to go into adjustments and go down to invert, and it'll invert that, make it the photo negative of itself. And then making sure I've got the layer chosen, I'm going to bring the intensity down. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, so that you'll see now that I'll be able to drag that layer, left-hand layer, over the top of the right-hand layer. And I can see the two at the same time, kinda. Now this is just where the manual work begins. If we were working in a more recent version of Photoshop, it would do all of this automatically for us. In PS2, it doesn't do it automatically, so we have to do it manually. It's not a bad skill to learn anyway. And all I'm going to be doing now for the next couple of minutes, and I'll speed up the video, is I'm going to be moving the left layer slightly to the left, slightly to the right, slightly up and slightly down, or else grabbing one of the handles and holding Shift as I do it. I'll drag those handles until the left layer is slightly bigger or slightly smaller. Now, when I have it where I want it, I must remember to click Enter, hit the Enter key. That way it'll accept the new settings. Okay, now that I think I have the image the way I want it, I want to bring the color back to the left side, bring it back to its original color. So I'm going to re-invert it, in other words, invert it, de-invert. And then I'm going to bring the intensity level up, but I must make sure that I have the layer selected. So I bring the intensity level back up, and that's kind of sort of a match. Now, as it happens, I think the layer on the right hand side, which is layer 1, is closer in color to what the original was. I'm just going to grab that layer in the layer column and drag it up so it sits on top of the left hand side layer, and you can see what's happened there. If you just switch on and off those, you can switch those layers on and off by clicking those boxes, so you see what's going on. And the layer you select is always the one that's manipulated or edited, and the layer on top is always the one that's closest to you, that you see most clearly. Now the layer on top has the color I kind of want, and the layer on the bottom is just a little bit faded. So now I'm going to match that by selecting the left layer, go to adjustments, choose match color. It'll ask me for a source. The first thing is I have to tell it it's this file, so it's the test file, and I want to match layer 1. You see what happens? Choose OK, and you get a better view. It's actually matched the colors. It hasn't done a bad job. It's not absolutely exact, but it's not bad. And now what I want to do is make my two images become one, because I've matched them quite close in terms of shape and size and color. So I select on the two of them, holding down Shift, then right click and choose merge layer. So I've now made two layers into one. So if I click it off, you can see now it's gone, and I click it on and there it is. Okay, I want to get rid of that grayish background. So I'm going to do this in 2 steps. For reasons I'll explain later in the week. You can do it in 1, but we'll do it in 2 today. So I'm just going to go to that rectangle selection tool there that you saw. Draw a rectangle across my circle. Now I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose select invert because I don't want inverse. I don't want to select the circle. I want the rest of it because I'm going to delete it. So I delete that and it goes. So I've got a lot of the gray removed, but not all of it. So to get rid of the rest of it now, as I say, two-step process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this magic wand tool and go into the gray area. Yeah. Now I have to make sure I have the layer selected, otherwise nothing's going to happen. So always make sure the layer is selected. Click the magic wand tool on there. And it has selected too much material on me. It's actually selecting some of the drawing. So I'm just going to change the setting on the top here so it's not quite so sensitive. I'll bring it back down to 10. And I'm going to press Control D to deselect what I had previously selected because I'm going to start this process again. So Control D, and I have the layer on, and now I click inside the gray, and as you can see with selecting way less of the background now, so I have to add to it a bit by clicking Shift, holding down Shift and clicking a new area that's not already selected. When I have everything, then I'm going to hit delete. And it's gone. So now I have a drawing on a white background. So I need to select it. Yeah, okay, so I'm just zooming out now. And I'm going to select the layer and bring it up to the top right. And then when I go to the handle, this handle here, and click on it, hold down my mouse button, and hold Shift at the same time. That means that it'll stretch it out like that in proportion. And I'll stretch it until I have it where I want it. And then I'm going to have to hit Enter to confirm my choices. Hit the Enter button. So now the next thing I'm going to do is put a label on this, and I will do that by choosing that T in the toolbar. That's for text. So I'm going to choose the text tool, and I'm going to label my drawing and call it a plan. When I choose the text tool, I just place my cursor into the sheet where I want the text to appear, and it'll automatically generate its own layer. So I've got a text layer now generated, and I'm just going to call this thing a plan. So I'm going to create another piece of text over here, which is just my name. And again, I put the cursor in where I want the text to appear. And as you can see on the right hand column there, it's colored blue, is the layer on which my name is appearing. So it's generating its own separate layer for my name. So now I have an image. So you'll go up to File, choose Save As, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG, which is just the image as it appears on the screen, but it'll be an A3 size. So I have text, test, and JPEG. Choose OK. And now I have, it'll offer me a couple of options here. Just choose OK. And I'll go on to my desktop. Where is it? There it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. So there is my JPEG image. And if I double click on that, you'll see that I have my image pretty much as I drew it on an A3 sheet of paper with a small amount of text.